G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the round 18 preview. Got a few matchups this weekend, back to 9 games in a round, which is awesome, as well as a few captain options at the end of the video as well for the round ahead. But also we're going to have a look back as usual at the last round's best players, and there were some big ones in round 17, guys. So without further ado, let's get into it. Round 17, we saw a couple of St Kilda players absolutely dominate on Sunday afternoon. Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller, Brad Hill, and Max Hall, all in the top 4 for the players this week. All of them going gold against Essendon, which is insane. Just absolute junk fest for a whole bunch of Saints. Naz got 160, Brad Hill got 159, and Max Hall got 152. As well as that, Harry Sheasel kept doing his thing, and he also went gold. So he had 4 golds on the weekend, which is absolute madness. And yeah, Harry Sheasel, 154. Max Hall, 152. And then this guy, Zeke Ewan for the Suns, absolutely having his breakout game. 146 for Zeke, the Freak, against Collingwood in that tough loss. Yeah, Gold Coast not doing too well the last couple of weeks, but Zeke Ewan, an absolute shining light down back. Bailey Dale as well, really good against Sydney in another tough loss for the Dogs. 138 for Bailey Dale on the weekend, so he's getting back into some form. Jacob Van Rooyen against my Hawks was a bit terrifying after we got absolutely smacked around in that first half. Absolutely fell off a cliff, and Jacob Van Rooyen took full advantage. 131 for the Roo. Brodie Grundy against the Dogs again, sorry. Yeah, he absolutely dominated against Tim English in the ruck, getting back to his best form at the SCG. 130 for the Pig, Brodie Grundy. John Noble for the Suns, getting back to some form at home as well. He's racking it up in these bitter losses, though, that's for sure. He's getting plenty of kick-ins on the end of a lot of kick-ins. And yeah, him and Zeke were just passing it around between themselves on the weekend. It was fun to see. Bailey Smith doing his thing, even though it was a tough game at home against Brisbane. He still got 126, so still chugging out the big ones. Bailey Smith. Jordan Dawson as well, just absolutely dominant this year, ever since he took that little break. He has been absolutely on fire and absolutely dominating again against West Coast, an easier matchup. And yeah, certainty to ton up in that one, you'd have to say. Patrick Dangerfield, though, didn't expect him to be turning up, but he got 124 on the weekend at home against Brisbane. It was really just him and Bailey Smith doing much against the onslaught that was Brisbane last week. And then Toby Green for the Giants in the game-breaking match against Fremantle. Broke the Fremantle Dockers streak, the Giants. And Toby Green picked up and led from the front, 123 for him. And then Will Ashcroft, he has been in awesome form the last few weeks. Another 120 plus score, just on the mark this week. 120 was still enough to get into this top 10 bracket for the 3rd week in a row, which is insane. So he is starting to really tee off in the fantasy world. A couple of my other favorite players here, guys. Again, a few Saints in this one. Rowan Marshall at the top there, just having a day out against the Essendon players. And yeah, no Tom de Koning last week. So doing the solo stuff, taking plenty of marks. 118 for the ruck forward. Josh Dunkley, another one that has come good finally. I traded him out in my league a few weeks ago, and he is coming good now. So yeah, just that bump that I didn't want to see, but good to see him doing well. Good to see him getting back to some good form. 115 for the Dunks. One of my favorites now is this guy, Hugo Garcia. Again, St Kilda absolutely dominating on the weekend against Essendon. Plenty of tons, and Hugo got 115. George Hewitt as well for Carlton. He's been great the last few weeks, and he was one of the few to ton up in a very close game against the Tigers in the end. You thought a few Blues might have gone a bit better in that one, but it was really just Georgie Hewitt getting amongst it for the Blues, and he got 114. One of my favorites at the Hawks, my boys, is Josh Ward, and he's been getting busy the last couple of weeks. And last week, in that tough match against Melbourne, and the last game in Tassie, home game anyway, 110 for Wardy. Pretty happy with his output. And some really off-the-book ones coming up here, guys. Mason Wood got back to some form. Essendon can get even the lowest of drop-offs this year, back into form. Mason Wood getting back up to the ton last week, 110. Darcy Byrne-Jones been in some strange bit of form as well. This is the second time he's been on this list in the last couple of weeks. And yeah, 109 for DBJ. Connor Iden for the Giants. Whitfield went down on the weekend with that concussion. And Giants kept coming. And Connor Iden was getting on the end of a lot of junk on the weekend in Whitfield's absence. And yeah, against Freo, 108 for Iden. Speaking of Freo, Carl Warner got the best score for Fremantle on the weekend. He was one of the busiest midfielders out there in the loss for the Dockers. But yeah, Carl Warner, 108. I was against him, of course. Cam Rayner in a good showing, and Geelong would have hated this because I know a lot of Geelong fans don't like Cam Rayner. But he kicked 107 points down at GMHBA against the Cats on the weekend, and Cats fans would have been furious. He had an absolute day out. Charlie Curnow loves to play against the Dogs. Kicked another 4 or 5 goals. Took the lead in the Coleman for a second on the weekend, I think. Might still have it, but he is having a good bit of patch the last few weeks. He's been averaging well, and another ton for him on the weekend, 107. Blake Hardwick, odd one. Sometimes just goes, pops off, gets the junk down back, and he did that on the weekend. I think he had like close to 30 disposals, plenty of junk down back. He's either up forward kicking goals for us some weeks or down back clunking some marks. So Dimmer got 104. Very nice from him. And a couple of older ones down the end here. Ollie Wines turned back the clock. 102 for him against North Melbourne at home. And Toby Nankervis. Good to see him back. Richmond ruck against Carlton. I had a feeling he'd do well after a couple of one game back last week, and it was a bit of a warm-up one, and he seems to have warmed up again. Toby Nankervis turned up on the weekend. Good to see him back doing his thing. And here are the matchups for the week ahead, guys. So starting on Thursday night, we've got a big matchup, and it's Fremantle versus Sydney. Huge one there. Fremantle coming off that first loss in a long time against the Giants on the weekend, and they got the other Sydney team that they might want to take some anger out on back at home. But Sydney has been pretty good as well, usually at home. So away, they're a bit iffy. We saw that against Brisbane a few weeks ago. So it'll be interesting to see how they match up against the Dockers on Thursday night. Absolute rip snorter to start the week. What an absolute clash that's going to be. You know, a couple of rucks going at it in Jackson and Grundy, Brayshaw, Heaney, Sarong, Mills, Blakey. So many heavyweights in that one. And yeah, I reckon it's going to be an absolute shootout in that one for sure. A few forwards on both teams, a few full forwards doing all right recently. Tracy, Amos, Curnow obviously for the Swans. And plenty of defenders getting a lot of it too. You got Blakey, got Luke Ryan, Jordan Clark went all right last week. There's a few interesting ones in both teams I really like, and it's an absolute cracker to start the week. Collingwood versus North Melbourne on Friday after that. And it's going to be an interesting one. Collingwood and North Melbourne has, had some interesting matchups. So I remember, a year or two ago when North Melbourne was really down the bottom of the ladder, they came and gave Collingwood a real run for their money. And I don't know. I reckon they could do something against them this weekend at Marvel Stadium. Collingwood has been in some good form, though. Nick Dacos is back to it. Doing his thing every week these days. And there's a few others getting amongst it too. Jordan DeGoey, Darcy Cameron in there. I think Scott Pendlebury will be back this week. Love seeing Sam Swaddling out there for the Pies now. So interesting times for the Pies. And then, North Melbourne. What do you say about them? Bit of a yo-yo team. They have done all right this year, better than recent years. But, just falling off a cliff in certain games, and I thought they might have had a chance against the Port Adelaide Power last week, but just couldn't get it done. So interesting one though. I reckon LDU could have a good one in the middle, but the man to talk about is obviously Harry Sheasel there, because he's been tunning up at will the last few weeks, going gold at will. Going absolutely nuts. So he's going to have a big game down back, you'd have to say, against the Pies on Friday night. Good VC option there. Saturday, we're back to 4 games again, so a little bit of overlap. And it starts off with St Kilda versus Port Adelaide at Marvel Stadium. And big one there. Huge game for the Saints last week. A lot of Saints got into some form. And yeah, Nazaya Wanganeen Miller, Brad Hill, Max Hall, all coming off golds last week. Don't think they're all going to do it this week, but far out, there are some informed Saints at the moment. My boy Hugo Garcia, Rowan Marshall, geez, even Mason Wood was doing it last week. So interesting one. Against Port Adelaide at home. Last time they played, I think Zach Butters was best on ground. So I'd have to think he's going to come out firing away from home. And yeah, just interesting ones there. Maybe Ollie Wines still in some form. Or, goodness me, Darcy Byrne-Jones seems to be the man on the kick-ins. They might be getting Kane Farrell back this week, though. So that would be a good in for the power. And maybe a good in for a few fantasy coaches down back as well. So I know Kane Farrell takes a lot of kick-ins. Be happy to see him back. So a lot of interesting ones in the Saints v Power game to start off on Saturday. And yeah, a few VC options in that one as well, you'd have to think. GWS versus Geelong at Engie Stadium after that. I reckon that is actually an awesome matchup. I love to see those two teams going at it. Giants got a bit of fire about them after last week beating the Dockers. And Geelong coming off a loss at home. So tough one on the road. A few of their older guys fell off a cliff, like Jeremy Cameron the last couple of weeks. Don't know if he's going to be in this week. We'll have to wait and see. Dangerfield coming off a season best game last week. So yeah, weird ones for some cats there. And obviously you got Bailey Smith. You've got some awesome Giants there in Lockie Ash, Callahan, Oliver. No Lockie Whitfield this week because he's out with concussions. So yeah, maybe that is the chance Geelong will have on the weekend. But I think after last week, Giants at home should be getting that one done, to be honest. But I still think it's going to be close, and you never know with Geelong. They have been that powerhouse the last 10 plus years. So you never know. Could be an absolute cracker midway through Saturday to get us going. I'll be starting there on Saturday, so please come and join me for that one. All the tick boxes on the right here. I'll be watching along on this channel this week, guys. So please come and say hi during some of these games. Carlton Blues versus Hawks. After that, I'll 100% be watching here. My guys against the Blues. Always a fiery matchup. And yeah, interesting one. Blues on that streak. And Hawks, a little bit wobbly, very wobbly last week to get started in that first half against the Demons. But then we came back in that second half at least, but it was nowhere near enough. But interesting one. Carlton coming off that close win against Richmond last week. But it was a close win against Richmond. So weird times. Some of the Blues fell off a bit last week. And just a shade of their old form there when they fall off in the third or fourth quarters. So interesting one. Very interesting game on Saturday night to get us started. And I don't know who is going to pop off in that one. Blues and Hawks have been iffy for fantasy this year. So, and yeah, anyone against the Hawks, I feel, apart from last week, gets a little bit nullified. Like, don't go quite as big. And Hawks themselves don't go that big either. So it's just a weird one for fantasy coaches, Carlton versus the Blues. But we could be seeing some weird tons happening in that one, or some odd bods getting a bit of it, I reckon. Maybe down back for the Blues. Hopefully. On Saturday night after that, Crows versus the Suns, and Gold Coast has been in absolute stinking form the last 2 months almost. And the Crows coming off a win last week as well. So against West Coast away from home. So back at home, Adelaide against the Suns in shocking form at the moment. You got to say it's all Adelaide. You got to think they're going to get it done. Jordan Dawson's probably going to come out firing, and a few other Crows. Isaac Rankin back to some good form last week. Maybe Phil Thorpe back this week will be interesting. So another forward option for the Crows against, a bit of a rabbly Suns at the moment, you got to say. We did see Zeke Hewland and John Noble absolutely junking it up last week. That was really the main silver lining for the Suns because they have been off. Noah Anderson's trying his best. Matt Rowell, Petrarca is in weird form. Just a strange time for the Suns. And going to be a weird one to finish off. I think Adelaide should get that one done at Adelaide Oval. But touch and go for the Suns. It's really now or never. You got to put your season back on track because, it's almost done. And very important one for the Crows to really cement that final spot, you'd think. Sunday, Western Bulldogs versus the West Coast Eagles. I'm going to call this Sunday, by the way, Sunday, Bloody Sunday, because there is going to be some absolute bloodbaths on Sunday, this coming Sunday. Western Bulldogs versus West Coast Eagles. Should be an absolute day out for some dogs. Bont, Dale, a few others in there. Would love to see Ed Richards get back up to the ton. Maybe Riley Sanders. If there's no, I think, is Liberatore out again? Maybe. So, yeah, just an interesting one. A lot of dogs I'm expecting to get busy there. But maybe some Eagles down back like Tom McCarthy. Or, would love to see Willem Dersma get back into some form. Or, obviously, Harley Reid, if he could stop giving away frees, would be good. But yeah, interesting one to start us off on Sunday. I think dogs absolutely going to blow the Eagles out of the water early on Sunday. And yeah, big bloodbath in that one. Next up, Melbourne versus Richmond. Another absolute bloodbath in the making. Last time they played, I think Demons won by a good 60 points. And Cozzy Pickett had an absolute day out. And yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be something similar on the weekend. Tigers do have Toby Nankervis back. Got Tim Taranto trying his best. And that's really about it for the Tigers at the moment. It was nice to see Kane McAuliffe back for them last week. And against the Demons, maybe there'll be some interesting Tiger scores on the weekend. But I think it's going to be all about the Demons. Max Gawn, Cozzy Pickett. I think Trent Rivers was awesome last time. And Sparrow as well. So a couple of their unsung midfielders could be having a bit of a day out against the Tigers, you'd think, on Sunday afternoon. Plenty of Demons getting busy, I reckon. And then maybe the biggest bloodbath of all this weekend will be the final game of the week. Brisbane at home against the Bombers. And the Bombers have overtaken Richmond, in my mind, as the bunny team. I thought it was Richmond for most of the season, but it clearly is Essendon now. St Kilda absolutely tunning up at will last week against the Bombers. And Brisbane Lions at home against the Bombers after smashing the Cats at home last week. So they're in a bit of form, or some kind of hype about them now, at least. They beat the Cats, and now they got easy matchup, you'd think, at home, and they should run riot. Will Ashcroft going to be getting busy. Josh Dunkley's been good, but now we got Zorko and maybe McCluggage coming back this week. So midfield stacked once again for the Lions. And who's holding down the fort for the Bombers? Well, at least Sullivan Roby was all right last week. I felt like he looked good once he got into the midfield and centre bounces. And obviously Zach Merritt's in there as well doing his thing. Maybe Archie Roberts back this week would be interesting. So some defensive stuff down back would be good. Because, it just hasn't been working for them ever since he's left. It wasn't working that well before he left. But, would be nice to see the big pig Archie Roberts back for the Bombers. But plenty happening in that one, and I reckon there could be in excess of 6+ tons for the Lions in that one, guys. An absolute bloodbath, bloody Sunday to finish off that one, for sure. And finally, some captain options here, guys. Starting off on Thursday, I'm thinking the ruck battle of the weekend is going to go down, and it's going to be a huge one between Luke Jackson and Brodie Grundy to start us off. Fremantle versus Sydney should be an absolute cracking game, and I reckon two of the best rucks going at it. Should be, fire matchup in the middle between the two big men. So I reckon one of them might come out on top. Usually that's the way it works, but I reckon both of them are going to absolutely kick on and get plenty of it. So modern day ruckman going at it. Should be a good way to start the week. Nick Dacos and Harry Sheezel on Friday night. I mean, obviously, Nick Dacos been incredible, and Harry Sheezel has been even better the last couple of weeks. Just absolutely racking it up at will, and he has been averaging, close to 140 or something the last couple of weeks. It's been insane. Nazaya, Wanganeen, Millera, and Zach Butters on Saturday early afternoon. Couple of big names there. Last time they played, I think St Kilda got the wood over Port, but Zach Butters had a day out. I think he got 120. Nazaya Wanganeen after last week, and a few of the Saints absolutely dominating. Naz is the man. 160 last week. Should get well above the ton against Port Adelaide, you'd think, on Saturday afternoon. Lockie Ash, thinking, is going to have a bit of fun against the Cats on the weekend. No Lockie Whitfield there, so one Lockie down, but the other Lockie should be getting busy, I reckon. And against the Cats, could be a formidable matchup, but Giants got it done against Freo last week. So, I reckon he's going to be leading from the back. And could be a few midfielders getting busy against the Cats too, like Callahan or Oliver. And yeah, Bailey Smith, obviously, he has been the man. He, even in the big losses for the Cats, he's still getting it done. 120 plus last week. Engie Stadium's going to be interesting. See how he goes up there in New South Wales. But Bailey Smith usually gets it done. Jordan Dawson against Gold Coast at home. Pretty sure thing, I'd have to imagine. He's been in insane form, just constantly doing everything in the middle, tackling, marking, racking it up, kicking goals, doing everything. So Jordan Dawson, got to be a lock against Gold Coast, you'd think. And I reckon John Noble will get a bit of it down back as well with the onslaught from Adelaide on the weekend. He's been awesome this year, and yeah, I think he'll be getting a lot of it, a lot of kick-ins, a lot of kick-ins straight to him from maybe Zeke Euland on the weekend. And then on Sunday, I've got, maybe should have had more on Sunday here, but I've got a couple of dogs going big against the Eagles. Bailey Dale's been in awesome form, and I'm thinking West Coast Eagles could be a good matchup for Marcus Bontempelli to go big once again. Just dominate in the middle. Bontempelli against Dersma should be a bit of fun, actually. That could be, yeah, a couple of bonds going at it. Plus Frazier. So a couple of mini bonds out there with the main bonds, you'd think. Should be a busy day for some Bulldogs on Sunday afternoon. Cozzy Pickett against Richmond. He went nuts last time. I think he's going to do it again. Richmond, yeah, easy matchup for the Demons. You'd think in the midfield could be interesting with a couple of changes. Again, Kane McAuliffe is back, so maybe he's going to nullify Cozzy Pickett. Doubtful. But I think Cozzy Pickett's going to get 120 plus against the Tigers. And then finally, the final bloodbath there. Will Ashcroft has been awesome the last few weeks. I know Dane Zorko is coming back. I know McCluggage is coming back. So maybe a few more mouths to feed. But against Essendon, I think they're all going to get fed on the weekend. And everyone is going to have a big, big day for the Lions at home at the Gabba. And Will Ashcroft is the most balanced, sure thing in the last few weeks for the Lions. So I'm going to put him in there as a sure thing captain option to finish off the week. So there you have it, guys. That is my round 18 preview and a little of the best from last rounds as well. So thank you very much for watching this video. Please tune in throughout the week, the weekend, sorry. I'll be watching the games here with the stats up, chatting some fantasy. So come along and say hi. And yeah, if you got a second, try out some game day squad there, guys, and use the code MONSTAR. Get some free packs, start your dynasty, and start collecting today. And yeah, like me on social media. Until next time, guys, I'll see you in the next video.